Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Rear Naked Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Jamie Kilstein.
And I'm the other host, Drew Weatherhead. We are back for episode number 4 with a killer guest, one that Jamie has trained with in the past, one that I've trained with in the past, and one who probably everybody already knows from Instagram and from ADCC and
EBI, fucking ass-eating memes, the famed dietitian.
Very true, very true. You know him by his famous diet. We're talking about none other than Garry Tonon.
Tonon. I am so... It was great. We just did it. We talk about everything from sliding into DMs to... Here's the thing. Drew and I were really excited because Gary's so fucking funny and offensive, as they say. And by the way, so many guys in our sport, if actors, like Garry would have been canceled a million times by now.
Yeah.
But like every tweet, it would be like, Gary's canceled again. Someone gave Garry his computer back and we have to cancel him again. But I really wanted to, one of the things that I forget, I'm so glad you were like as much of a fanboy. Like I've been friends with Garry for a while, but like I was texting him before the interview and I was like, hey man, I know we're friends, but like, just so you know, like I'm a really big fan of your fighting too. And like, I kind of want to ask you some serious jiu-jitsu questions. So like the first fucking 80% of the interview, we actually go really deep into mindset and confidence and competition and that flow escape style combined with aggression. And it's fucking cool. I think from a technical aspect, this was my favorite interview we've done. Just when it comes to that mindset and shit.
If you're a competitor or if you have plans on competing, there are some serious gold nuggets that Garry dropped in here, not only on how to train, but how to compete, the differences between the two common mistakes that people make when they're doing one or the other, confidence, proper confidence, and what was the term he used? It was like fake confidence.
Probably something that will get him canceled is some very derogatory term for a vagina is my guess.
I took a seminar with him back in 2015, and there's a defense to a knee bar, or a toe hold that he used that I had to figure out a euphemism for what he called it so that I could teach it to my class without worrying that I was going to offend people.
Oh my God. I never thought I would get to tell anybody this joke because I was like, I had I thought a funny joke in class, and the only person that I know besides the guys I train with are like my girlfriend who was like not as into it. But somebody, and I won't rat him out, used the antiquated term of rape choke. And the class kind of like was taken back a little bit. And the grip, I guess it was called reverse rape choke, which I didn't even know that was a thing. And so the class was kind of quiet. And I, in front of everyone, chimed in and I go, it's fine. Reverse rape choke just means you're trying to stop the rape. You're trying to like reverse. You're trying to reverse engineer it. So, which, by the way, I tried to explain to my girlfriend. I was like, that's a progressive joke. I'm stopping the rape. Whatever. I'm glad I got to tell it to you.
No saving it at that point.
Yeah. You're not recording right now. Yeah. I mean, but man, what he had to say was so fucking fascinating. He's such a Gary's such a fucking smart guy. Like he's a fucking goof on Instagram, but he's so intelligent. And I'm saying this because I don't know if Drew was planning on saying something, but I will. Something is very off with his phone, and there is 1,000%, at least in my headphones, a clicking noise that happens every time he speaks. Doesn't matter. Turned into white noise for me. I didn't even. It's. Bear with it because it's just he was doing it on the holidays. We've tried to get him. He can't really do it when he's in New York. He was doing it from his cell phone. It's really not that bad for me. I got used to it. It is there, so I just want to throw that out there, but it's fucking worth it.
Yeah, very worth it. And there is plans in the future to bring him back on the show in a big way, so keep keep that tucked into your hat.
You will hear those plans at the, oh no, you won't.
No,
we were
cut
off the air.
Yeah. Shh,
Oh,
shh, shh, shh.
all right. It's fucking good. It's fucking good. Cool, man. So I think one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was just at the top of the show. I don't know how many Instagram questions we got. We got a bunch of dumb ones for Garry. But a lot of people have been asking you, and I think this could be a cool place to go, about sort of like influencer status and starting to make a living. You know, Garry actually talks about this, about making a living and getting what you're worth in the interview. But, you know, your biggest, the first thing you kind of came on the scene with was like the memes, the jiu-jitsu memes and comedy in jiu-jitsu, which is kind of how we met. So for all the people asking advice on like how to blow up my fucking Instagram page and shit like that, I have some thoughts on it that are less pragmatic. But what are your like kind of immediate thoughts when people come to you with that shit?
Yeah, this is actually a really good and multi-varied question. It really depends, firstly, on who's asking it, because it's going to depend on what their goal is. So is their goal to get sponsored by some company? Is their goal to pitch ads to get, you know?
Let me do an impression of who we're not talking about. Hey, Drew, love your account. Really funny, bro. How do I like fuck more white belt chicks? Is there a way, like, if I get up to like, I don't know, like the 2,500 followers, do you think they'll fuck me?
I'm going to forward that question on to Garry.
Great.
But so it depends on who you are and what your objective is. Basically, when it comes to social media, the best advice that anybody can give is to know your audience, know what they want to see, and give them what they want to see. So for me, it was pretty easy because my audience was jiu-jitsu people. What they wanted to see from me was jokes. And so I gave them jiu-jitsu jokes. It was just that simple. And on top of that, once you figure out who your audience is and what they want, continue to give it to them on a very consistent basis. I literally have not missed a single God-given day since I started. Every single day has been a brand new piece of content or content every single day, and that will play into the algorithms of social media, so we'll keep pushing it onto their feeds more often, which definitely helps.
I got to get better at that too, man. I got to take that advice because I feel like I've been so scattered in the past with like what I want to do with like comedy or whatever, and I finally kind of locked on to this. I mean, I still am doing stand-up and stuff like that, but this podcast is what's making me the happiest. This jiu-jitsu comedy or the comedy videos I made. If you guys don't, I have a YouTube. It's just youtube.com/Jamie Kilstein, or my Instagram @the Jamie Kilstein, where I did the Epstein choke video and the 3 guys not to roll with, and those really took off. And I want to do more of those, but with that content every day, I think a lot of people have this thing. So I did this where you post something and it does well, and then you go, well, I don't really want to post something that's not gonna, I mean, you posted that Epstein choke video and it had like 35,000 views or whatever, and then the next video was also really good, but then my filmmaker left, and I was like, all right, I guess I'll just like post like a speech from my phone about like, whatever I did, and suddenly it's from tens of thousands of views to like 1,000 views, and you go, oh, well, I don't really want to do that. So then you don't post the next day, or you just want to, like on my YouTube, before I started posting jiu-jitsu videos, there was like a thing I did on TV that had like 900,000 views. And then I didn't post anything for so long, they demonetized me because I just was like, well, I got to wait till I have another TV thing, as opposed to just like getting over your fucking ego and just being consistent, which it sounds like pay more in the long run.
Yeah, consistency is a big deal. And this is something that if you're someone like yourself who's trying to put out like really quality videos, instructionals, and comedy sketches, you can't be expected to be doing that every day. So when you hear somebody like me being like, well, you just got to do it every day, like, well, fuck, now I'm out.
Well, no, but what I should do is I should have the balls to post some kind of jiu-jitsu or comedy thing every day, even if it's just like a clip of me rolling or whatever,
Sure.
as opposed to waiting, around to, I don't know.
This is what I was kind of getting at, is that you don't necessarily have to give them the best premium that you can do every single day, because it's not realistic. Nobody does that. But you just have to go back to that original question, is who is your audience and what do they want? It
Right.
doesn't necessarily have to be from you. You could take one of my memes and post it, and that's what they want for that day. At least you're
yeah.
back, you're on their feed every day. It's already been proven. This is what I tell people all the time. Like, just use my shit. Like, it's there to be used.
I've never
You use it
reposted
for-
anyone's shit.
You would be surprised how many just run-of-the-mill jiu-jitsu gyms use my memes regularly. It's just sort of like to joke around and motivate their own students.
Right.
And it's free to do that.
Because I don't like taking other people's shit, but if it's like, well, I'm sharing my friend's thing and I can give, like, maybe if you like, all right, so here's something. If you don't just want to, like, don't just rip people off. That
There's a difference.
That was going to be one of my pieces of advice. And obviously stealing content is like, you're fucking scum and should die. I do one interview with Garry and I'm like, kill yourself, everybody. But also don't just become famous taking other people's shit, even if you're giving them credit. So like, that's something I've really prided myself on. You know, everything I've done has been original. Even if people are like, hey, here's a tagline for your joke. I'm like, hey man, that's funnier than what I have. But like, I just don't like doing that. So like, if I were to repurpose or if I were to repost one of your memes, I would probably at least try to write a paragraph. One, I get to shout out my friend, but I would also write a paragraph of like why I related to it or a funny story that like ties into it.
That's right. Yeah. Make it your content in that way. Like the description is your content.
Yeah.
And your fans are reading you while they see that.
And you have to, like, when people used to ask me like podcast advice, what you have to also, don't rip off someone else's purpose. Don't want a Joe Rogan show because you want to sit around and smoke weed and be rich, right? Like, I used to get people, like, I used to have a political show that I hosted with my ex, and people would write in and they'd be like, hey, so like, you know, me and my girlfriend want to have like a political podcast and it's going to be like political but like funny, and I'm like, oh, you just want me to say go do our podcast is what's happening right now. And like Rogan will, like, you know, like, hey, I'm like a comedian, I want to sit around and like get high and like shoot the shit with my friends and like talk about hunting. And it's like, right, you want to do Joe Rogan's podcast, and like, yo, we're gonna see that with us really soon with this podcast. And it's like, I'm not even telling people don't do it or that there can only be one person. I want to inspire people to like make other shit. What I'm saying is like, nobody can be you. Mm-hmm. And if you are doing something because you sincerely love it and because you think you can bring something different to the table because of who you are, because of your life experiences, it will be so much better and be so much more successful than if you just want to be like, you just want to make money on Instagram, so you're going to steal Drew's fucking memes, or you just want to sit around with your friends because you hate your job. Like, look, I don't want any of you guys to work jobs you hate, but I want you to do something that you're original and can bring passion and legitimacy to, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. One last piece of advice for people who are wanting to, blow up their Instagram. You got to understand, with Instagram especially, there's no direct route to monetizing it. So like social platforms like YouTube, there's a direct route to monetize it. Once you get certain numbers, certain stats, then you can just click to monetize, and they pay you from ads that they put onto your videos. There's no route like that for Instagram. So if that's your goal, if your goal is to try to make some money off of your presence, that's basically what an influencer does. There are other avenues to do that, and you need to figure out what your goal is first, because you need to build your brand or your personality or persona, your account, around those goals early.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's get into our fucking interview. Before we do that, I just want to say I was on Pornhub
I'm so glad you brought this up.
I was on Pornhub while my girlfriend was away visiting her family for the holidays. I was taking care of my what I thought was dying cat, and hopefully he'll be okay. And in between, I was de-stressing. And on the front page of Pornhub, I saw a friend of mine, this guy named Adam22, who's big in the hip hop world, big in the porn world, and he was having sex. I almost didn't click it because I'm like, ooh, you're the first dick that I know. But I was like, you know what? It's been a rough week. I'm emotionally confused. And he was having sex with his girlfriend, I think Lena the Plug, and then this other girl who I really like, Riley Reed, I think. And he was fucking both of them. Now, that's a pretty cool life. You're probably asking yourself, Jamie, where was he having sex with them? I'll tell you. He was having sex with them in the back of his shop, where he also records his podcast that I've been on, which is only a couple doors down on Melrose in Los Angeles from SUPERARE shop. SUPERARE, I swear to God, our sponsor. Every time that I would do Adam22's podcast, the same place where you can be so fucking cool that you can have sex with two porn stars just several doors down from that. And Adam has been to the store, you guys. So I told him all about it. I like literally bring my baggie of like t-shirts I brought into the same studio where porn stars get fucked, is SUPERARE shop. The sponsor, one of the sponsors of Rear Naked Radio.
You can't get much more awesome than that. Like that really covers all the bases.
You don't.
Remember when you go to superareshop.com, if you aren't in town in LA or New York or Jersey.
Or inside two porn stars.
I don't know if the promo code works there. I'm trying to lead into it.
It does not. It does not.
Okay. Well, wait a sec. The promo code is Rear Naked. It might actually work.
It might work for one. I think it's good for one porn star, but not two.
Okay. You guys do the due diligence and tell us if it works.
Don't do that. Don't legally, just don't do that. I will say this too. I was all over. I just go to their website sometimes because their gear is so fucking cool. And I was going on to I'm buying post Christmas presents just because like the fucking cat stuff just sidelined me. And they also, which we haven't talked about this, they have a brand new Bruce Lee collection of shirts.
Ooh.
Dude, I don't know if you've seen them yet. I'm doing the Christmas bullshit where I'm like, I'm gonna buy that for me. Even though I could probably get it for free. But yeah, it's so fucking cool. And they have gloves, and Burchek was just posting, like, he just got these like dope like fucking mitts from there, and like it's the coolest looking gear you will ever see, like stylistically.
Yeah, they got hand wraps that look like wads of money.
It's so fucking badass.
Super cool.
And I was gonna say something. Oh, also, I mean, I don't even know if I should be saying this, but one of the owners of it, of the shop, just like fucking texted me to make sure like my cat was okay, just because he saw my Instagram and was just like, hey man, like Merry Christmas, just thinking of you. Like they're good.
That's good people.
Fucking people. They're good fucking people. So superareshop.com, use promo code Rear Naked, get 15% off, which is legit. Yeah, it's my favorite fucking fight shop. All right, cool. So look, I all I want to do is talk to you about girls, Gary, and we will. But I feel like if we open with that we're off the fucking rails. Like there's no way we will stay on track.
I promise you that somehow it'll get peppered into the conversation regardless of whether or not you bring it up. So it really is. You've talked to me before, so.
I know. No, but I'm the same way. But I feel like when you pepper it in, it's like really cool stories about like girls you fucked. Whereas like I do the same thing you do, but it'll be like at Trader Joe's where they'll be like, did you find everything? And I'm like, I haven't found love yet. And I think I'm being complacent in my current relationship because my standards are low and I don't believe in myself. And it's just like, it's a fucking mess. All right. Jiu-jitsu. So look, one of the things I really want to talk to you about and I want to focus on in the interview is a combination of confidence mixed with relaxation, right? And we talked to Huron Gracie about his kind of like keep it playful philosophy. And I feel like what I love about you the most is, and this is kind of like ties into your new DVD series all about like escapes, is you have this combination of being able to stay relaxed and stay loose and flow, whether it's in training or fucking even like when you're fighting like Huron Gracie, right? But you also can be really aggressive with like that wrestling style. What's the switch? How do you train that? How do you not go too far in either direction and be able to stay relaxed and chilled out, but also not give up?
Yeah. So I guess it's difficult because I think I've competed both ways, and I think I train both ways. Like I have an ability to go back and forth between the two. I don't know if there's too many times where I kind of where I blend the two into the same match. I think often like I either go into a match like really relaxed and kind of that's I have more of a counterattack style, or I go into a match like with intentions to kill.
Right.
And often it's either one or the other. But I definitely think there's a distinction between the two, and just a general mindset that I'm in either of those regards. I would say that the idea of being the man that's the aggressor and the guy that's on the attack is more new to me than and the counterattack, flowing, relaxed, kind of getting put in bad positions style. That comes much more naturally.
What do you recommend, or what do you like more? Because I mean, I know there have been times, we've probably all done this, like there have been times where if I stay flowy with a fucking black belt, I will roll better than if I'm seeing red with a big blue belt who's being a spaz. You know what I mean? Like, does aggression fuck you up sometimes when you go to, like, do you prefer the flowy style?
Yeah, so I think I think both are absolutely necessary. And I would say that they're absolutely necessary whether you have intentions of competing or whether you just do this for self-defense or recreationally, whatever the case may be. Because at the end of the day, we all need to have an ability to, when shit hits the fan, when the circumstances are such that we need them to submit somebody as quickly and efficiently as possible. Like we all need to have a trained ability to do that. Because there's going to be confrontations that you could potentially be involved in where you want to end it as quickly as possible. Like it's not like, oh yeah, we're just going to see what this guy has to give to me.
Right.
We'll see where we end up. Right. Like it doesn't really work out that way, whether it's in competition, if there's like a minute left to go, or whether it's, in a self-defense situation where, you don't know if the guy's buddies are going to jump on you and attack you, or, whatever the case may be, some sort of situation arises where things need to end quickly. We all need to be able to do that. Now, I'd say that comes much more naturally to most people. I'd say to most people, when they train, compete, etc., most people have intentions of going for the kill. I think that's because, in general, the way that most of us conceptualize combat, that's what makes the most sense, right? Like we want to try to use everything that we've got to try to defeat whatever's in front of us. And it's a great winning strategy for the short term, right? Like, I mean, it's hard to argue the fact that like the best strategy is to try to most quickly and efficiently try to end it, right? But in the long-term game where we're learning and developing skills, it's kind of hard to make consistent progress with that kill mentality over time, because what will end up happening is you'll get comfortable with certain movements that you're particularly good at, because those are your movements that are going to help you most quickly and efficiently kill, right? But those other movements that you're not so sure of, you're never really going to integrate them into what you're doing, because you're in kill mode all the time, right? So it's kind of hard to develop a skill that you're not, very good at yet, if that's the only way you train or the only way you compete. So I think that.
Uh-oh. We've lost audio and video. Just a sec. Something sketchy here. Guys, can you hear me? Okay, we good.
Okay, I just want to point out, so we lost reception. The computer completely shut down, but we're back. But what happened was, Drew, you just disappeared. Garry and I were still here, and it suddenly just said, Garry is the host now, which was the most haunting shit. And I was like, I guess me and Garry have a podcast now. And it just looked like your life, like you just disappeared from like existence. And Garry he figured it out, man.
Both of you look really happy about that. I'm really concerned right now.
We had a bit of a we did good bits together. We were like yes anding each other, and like me and Garry have a bit of a natural flow. Is all. We're both Americans.
I'm shocked, a little surprised. Neither of you look like hacker types, but now I got to be Larry.
Yeah. All right. So cool, Drew.
Yo. Here
Ask
I am.
a question.
Yeah. So where we left off before I evaporated onto the internet was you were talking about competition mindset, flow versus aggression, and it follows into a question that we got online. One of the good ones on Instagram that a fan sent, which is
one of the good ones that was so passive aggressive.
Dude, there were some shit questions. I'm not gonna lie. I had to wade through the swamps to find it, but we got there. Was nerves before competition. How do you deal with them? Do you still get them? I know after a while, like professionals in sports just don't get them anymore. Is that where you're at? Is there some advice you can give to, say, a white blue belt level competitor?
All right. So first off, I think that the idea of completely eliminating nerves in competition is A, unrealistic, and B, even if you could do it, I wouldn't want to. It seems like an incredibly desirable thing to not be like nervous or anxious. However, a lot of like coaches, including myself, I've done this over the years, will be like, hey, listen, like when you get out there and you go and compete, like it's just like when you're in the gym. And like, I get the theory behind that. And like, I get like what is trying to be done there. Like you're trying to calm your athlete down and try to make them think more like this is a regular everyday thing that they do. Right. But going out to compete is not the gym. Going out to compete, there are like much more dire consequences. There's people watching now, right? There's some level of like your, like a public image that could either be elevated or downgraded depending upon the results of whatever is happening, depending on how high level the competition is.
Sure.
You're probably more likely to sustain injury because of the elevated level of athleticism involved. Like there's more at stake. So, somebody's more likely to do something, erratic or with more force faster than they ever would in a gym setting. So it's really not the same competing as it is like training every day, even though like that's like kind of like what helps keep us calm. And it's fine to like walk yourself through that mentally and be like, oh, this is just what I do every day. That's fine. I get it. But at the same time, like there needs to be a little bit of nerves, a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of fear involved in that athletic performance, because that's what drives you to try to seek like absolute perfection in that performance, right? Whereas like when I go to train in the gym, for the most part, I'm not really seeking absolute perfection per se. I'm like working on different things. Like I'm trying to improve different elements of my game, etc. Like when I screw up, I don't want it to feel like a big deal in the gym, because it really shouldn't be. Like I want to make as many mistakes as I can in the gym so that when I go out and compete, like it's less likely to happen, right? And I think that fear, that anxiety and everything drives you to do that to some degree. Now, when it's a problem is when it causes you to freeze up and stop making decisions quickly, right? Like, so all of a sudden I get so anxious that I can't make not even just an appropriate decision, but any decision at all. And it prevents me from performing to the best of my ability, right? So there's some middle ground that we're searching for, where we have some level of fear and anxiety that pushes us to like really perform well, but not so much that it makes us not make decisions when we need to, right? So that's what you're really looking for. You're not looking to eliminate anxiety, in my opinion, and after saying that, I'll also say that what helps me do that more than anything else, like to find that middle ground, is just showing up and training, right? Like obviously practicing whatever it is that you're going to go do, like Of course, you can't perfectly simulate competition without actually competing, but live training gets pretty goddamn close. The same thing goes for MMA. Sparring comes about as close as you're going to get to actual fighting. As long as you're doing that as much as possible, per se, like let's say, I'll give you an example for each where you wouldn't be doing that. Like, let's say you're just lifting like 4 to 5 times a week, and then maybe you spar maybe you go to jiu-jitsu class and you drill the moves, but you only actually spar like twice a week, and then you would go out and compete. Well, you probably didn't do a very good job eliminating anxiety from that perspective, because you only really practice what you're doing twice a week, and you probably could have done that a lot more. MMA, same sort of story. Like, maybe you hit pads like 6 days a week, and then 1 day a week you spar. Like, 1 day a week, you're really practicing what you're going to go out there and do. And the other 6 days a week, you're kind of doing something similar, but it's not really the same thing at all. So it's not going to like really, hitting pads doesn't really reduce any level of anxiety for an actual fight, in my opinion. Right. So doing things as similar to the activity you're preparing for is a big part. And then another big part is developing routine that makes you feel comfortable. So anything, it could literally be anything with routine. Like, everybody's a little different. Like, I remember experimenting with like listening to music, prior to competing and stuff like that. Because a lot of people do that. Yeah. They throw on their headphones, they start jogging, they do their thing. And they, that's how they get pumped up or in the zone or whatever the case may be. I never liked that. I kind of hate, like, I don't even like to like put headphones in to like work out, to be honest. Like, having music on is one thing, like on that outside, but like, I don't like to have my sensory input like pigeonholed, like all in like one. I like to be able to take in the world around me. So like, makes me uncomfortable to like listen to music, and that doesn't make me feel less anxious. Like, if anything, it makes me feel worse. So like, that doesn't work for me. But for other people, that might make them feel a lot more comfortable. And if you do it every time, leading up to competitions or whatever the case may be, and that makes you feel better, then by all means, that helps you reduce anxiety. It's a learning process as to like what makes you personally feel comfortable, and then trying to repeat that over and over again every time you compete. And you'll make little adjustments here and there once you realize, what's good for you and what's not. My main advice would be to start looking at what most people do, and then, go from there. Like, what most successful people do, I would say. And then you make your adjustments from there that deviate from those successful individuals and the way that they prepare.
First of all, that was a great answer. Second of all, I can really tell you've been training under John Danaher with the length of that answer.
Yeah, you guys have to cut me off, because I'll just talk about things forever. Just be like, yeah, Gary, we get it.
Well, I actually have a follow-up question on that. By the way, Danaher, like, he with that kind of speaking, if he wanted to like have a cult, he could there are times when like he'll explain shit that I don't even understand, and I'm like, yes, like, tell me where to go. Does your because it's not just you, man, like, so I don't know if we were friends. Yeah, we were friends before Gordon really came on the scene, definitely before like Nicky Rod came on the scene. And something that a lot of your guys have in common is confidence, right? And I noticed that in you before it became a gym thing.
Sure.
And I think that, look, a lot of jiu-jitsu guys like me, like, I was never confident. Even when I was doing stand-up on TV, I was never confident. I was always like a nerd. And jiu-jitsu kind of helped me get my confidence, but it's still lacking a lot. When it comes to not even competition prep, but I mean, you can answer this about jiu-jitsu or life in general. With jiu-jitsu, I was wondering, do you subscribe? Do you do like visualization, positive self-talk, anything like that? And then just with life in general, have you always been like this? Do you have to kind of talk yourself into being confident? Or is there something that the gym or just jiu-jitsu in general kind of helps you with to own that confidence?
Sure. So I'm going to do my best to answer all parts of that question, because there's a lot to it. All right. Yeah. So we have a confidence element that we're talking about. And then we were talking about like visualization, self-talk, that sort of thing, which kind of ties into the confidence.
Yeah.
So I'll get into confidence in a second, because I want to talk about a little bit about the visualization thing. I think all successful people probably use some level of visualization, whether they realize it or not. I think it's like a critical element to successful performance. It's pretty difficult to just like not visualize what the task ahead of you and attempting to accomplish it with it's hard to not do that if you're getting ready for something that's meaningful to you.
Right.
So I absolutely do it, but I'll say that I believe I do it in a slightly different way than most people. So most people, when they watch an MMA fight, okay, when you watch a highlight of any MMA fight where somebody gets KO'd, if you had to say, and you answer this honestly, maybe it won't be what I'm thinking it's going to be, but if you had to say which athlete you visualize yourself as being, because everybody, when they watch some sort of athletic competition, especially something that's involved with what they do, they kind of picture themselves as the person that's competing on some level, just like watching porn. So,
you guys, by the way, you guys always picture yourself as the girl getting her pussy eaten, right? Or is that's everybody, right? That's all three of us because we're friends. Yeah, that's all three of us. Great.
Exactly. So, who would you say you visualize yourself being? The guy getting KO'd or the guy doing the KOing?
Yeah. Doing the KO. Like, I'm straight up Conor McGregor for that 6-minute montage I'm watching.
Sure.
Yeah,
for sure. It's like watching a Bruce Lee movie. Like, you don't envision yourself as everybody that he just repeatedly punches in the face. Yeah, that's just it'd be a weird thing personally if you did, to be honest. So I think when most people visualize the task ahead of them when they're preparing for competitions and things like that, that's exactly what they do. Especially I would say relatively confident people would be even more so inclined to visualize themselves only dominating, right? Like, going into the competition, all right, I'm going to hit my double leg or my guard pull or whatever it is that you do. Then, going right into my game, right into whatever submissions I'm comfortable with, this, that, and the other thing. And everything just works out great. The problem with that type of visualization is that there's two people in there. And if you're competing against anybody that's even decent, that's unlikely to happen. Like, you're not just going to be in control of a match from start to finish. Totally. It's very difficult to do. Even in live training, it's probably unlikely that you have too many rounds where you're just in full control. It's not as much as this is an art form and things like that, it's not like doing, ballet where you have full control over your body for the most part. And there's no, nobody's going to come in while you're doing your ballet performance and football tackle you halfway through. And you're going to have to deal with the randomness of that.
Right.
There's way less variables in that sort of performance. So you have another human being who's just throwing all kinds of variables at you all the time. So the likelihood that you're in control, minimal. So for me, when I visualize both being successful, which is an important part of visualizing, but also going through some sort of struggle first. So maybe I visualize, getting mounted, escaping, then reattacking, and then, eventually finishing my opponent or whatever the case may be. I try to walk myself through all the areas where I believe I might struggle in a match, getting out of those bad positions and then eventually succeeding. So if I know a guy's got a really good arm bar, this, that, and the other thing, I picture myself trying to get out of those things first, then eventually succeeding afterwards, instead of just, visualizing me killing the guy, just immediately taking his back and strangling him.
Right. Because then you're fucked the second that doesn't happen.
Yes.
That's
huge. It's terrifying when that happens.
Well, I've struggled with that. I had a long conversation with Ryan Hall about this, where he was talking about how a lot of times, smart people, it's or over analytical people, I should say, because I'm very analytical. It can be he said it can be your worst detriment or your best attribute, right? Because I've never been able to have, and this will tie into the confidence thing, I've never been able to be before competition, I'm the best in the world. Because then if I lose, I go, I guess I'm not the best in the world. And it's just been that bubble's been popped. And I feel like your visualization technique is so good, because if you're just picturing, jump up, snap, guillotine, finish, and he double legs you, that whole bubble is popped. And now you're kind of fucked.
Your whole world just gets shaken up in an instant. And that kind of draws back into the anxiety question that Drew was talking about earlier. It's that's a surefire way to make sure that you're really anxious, is to develop a plan, and not in your plan, not have anything written in for, hey, what if things don't go exactly to plan?
Right.
If you're just completely banking on that not happening, or visualizing things like that not happening, it really sucks when it's not the case. And I mean, I've made that mistake before in MMA fights. I've made that mistake before in jiu-jitsu matches, where I didn't give enough credit to my opponent mentally. And then when I got into some bad situations, I was like, oh man, this sucks.
Right.
Counting on this, so yeah.
All right. Well, I'll segue you to your confidence part B.
Yeah. So then with confidence, I've mentioned this on a couple occasions, but I don't know how thoroughly I've ever like explained it on video or anything like that. But I believe there's two pieces to confidence, because you can be artificially confident and then you can be confident for good reason. You can be delusionally confident, right? Like, I mean, you'll see, crazy people in the street delusionally confident. I mean, any
World
random
star.
Yeah. I mean, any random person will tell you, man, just one punch, knock this guy out.
Right.
I get crazy, man. I have
Don't know my
retard
mentality.
like this, just all over the place. You see that kind of shit, which is just.
I briefly forgot you were from Jersey until you used those examples, and I'm like, my home. I remember that. I remember all those guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's the standard, right?
Yeah.
Confidence, especially for fighting with males. Like, I mean, I think anybody that hasn't trained any martial art before as a male is likely to be delusionally confident that they can defend themselves.
Yes.
Usually. I mean, there's a few probably rare occurrences where you run into somebody who's like, a little bit more realistic about it. It's like, yeah, like my job is to work on computers. Like if somebody punched me in the street, I'd probably die. Like I'm sure there's some people that are realistic about it, but they're few and far between, at least in our world, because, the moment somebody finds out you're a fighter, that's the first thing that they want to talk about is, oh yeah, man, one time when I was in high school, I got to fist fight or something,
right.
for 2 seconds. So, so anyway, that kind of confidence anybody could have if you just lie to yourself enough. I mean, if you make up enough scenarios in your mind and you lie to yourself, you can be confident. And that's where it gets a little dangerous with, like, I think some of these like anti-bullying and like rape self-defense kind of things that people put out where, I think confidence is like a critical element of all of that, where people will talk about, oh yeah, you come to class or whatever, and we'll help you become more confident, this, that, and the other thing. But man, like working on somebody's self-confidence in that scenario is only so important, because without substance, like without any backup, like any actual real experience, it's just illusion, right? So like I could convince a kid to be confident and like stand up to bullies, and then when the first bully lifts him up by his underwear and shoves his face into the toilet, like he's not ready for that. You know what I mean? Like, sure, maybe him standing up for himself will prevent that from happening more often, perhaps. Like maybe it'll stop somebody who thinks he's just weak and not confident from, getting picked on. But when shit hits the fan, he won't know what to do. So it's kind of hard to truly have confidence without having some sort of practice with it. So like a kid going to some sort of a class and getting beat up by kids that are bigger and stronger than him, and then having some experiences where like, hey, this isn't so bad. Like I can survive this. Like this kid that's 25 pounds heavier than me, like, he's not just absolutely, killing me right now. I'm not going to like die underneath him. Like I'll find a way to make this work. Right. And through practice over and over and over again, he gets more and more comfortable with it. And then like, when some dude who's bigger and stronger than him picks on him in school and like tries to make him feel, small, it won't be as big of a deal. It'll be like, oh yeah, whatever. Like I've dealt with this shit before. Right. Whereas he just comes to like one class and drills a couple moves. And then, you do your, bully proof seminar or whatever it is for, for back to school, or, the girl that goes to the one rape self-defense course before she goes to college. And it's like, it's almost more dangerous that she goes and does that one time and believes that, all of a sudden she's, protected by that one class or whatever the case may be, than not taking anything at all. Like at least if you didn't go to anything at all, you wouldn't have this false confidence.
The false confidence, totally.
Yeah. And you'd have enough fear to like not get in dangerous situations, right? That, because I think that's really important. So I guess touching on that, my main point would be it draws back to what I was talking about before, where like you just have to make sure you're trying whatever it is that you're doing that you want to be confident about. You try to replicate that action as well as you possibly can to make it so that when it really does happen, whatever that thing is that you're trying to prevent, or when you're in competition, whatever that thing is that you're trying to achieve, it feels more normal.
Right.
And you're not freaking out.
And that can go to the real life stuff. Like even if we were talking about like girls, you get the guys with the fake bravado And then you get guys who just have learned how to be like normal and decent to girls. And because you have that track record of either like doing well at the gym or doing well with girls, that will then make the confidence more real. The more real the confidence is, the better the results are. You get more positive results, and then it just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that you touched on the dangers of having just a little bit of confidence, because I see that constantly in these self-defense videos that are put up by, oh God, there was one that was put up by some like Business Insider or something, some lady showing.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you know the one. It made some noise in the actual martial arts community. They're like, well, first of all, this is bullshit. Second of all, now everybody thinks that it's not bullshit. That's bad. You're giving a whole lot of people that don't know any better the confidence to be like, I poke groin stomp and then I'm out. Like you need a little bit more than that when you're dealing with aggressive attacker.
It was literally like a hot girl doing what Master Ken does as a joke with like an empowering Katy Perry song on in the background or something.
Yes.
Yeah, super dangerous. I'm glad you touched on that, because now we can trigger all those people. So when I first started following you back in the day, this was like, I don't know, 2011, 2012. You were a brown belt in the BJJ Kumite that Lloyd Irvin put on. That's
Holy shit.
Oh, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's 100%. Yes, that's where I found him too.
And it was so fun to watch your exciting style then, and then just to follow you throughout the years. And I feel like part of that exciting style, like we were talking about at the beginning, is that you're very active, but kind of unattackable, even though people attack you. Like the best example I can give people who haven't watched your style is I think it was EBI 2 where you had that semifinals match against Eddie Cummings. Eddie Cummings was showing like maybe at that time the highest level of leg locking versus your highest level of escapes to leg locks, and it was fantastic to watch back and forth. This is why I think, and you can chime in after this, but this is why I think that you're more exciting than any grappler at ADCC right now, is because you dive in head first and don't care if somebody tries to attack you while you do, because you have this incredible way of not only shooking off the attack, but re-upping on it while they're trying to rally. Look, like, I mean, everybody knows that Gordon won double gold. That's awesome. That's great for him. But really, like, a lot of the highlights I was seeing afterwards were yours. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah. So you brought in a few different elements. I'll try to touch on as many of them as I can, as far as like being exciting is concerned and taking risks and that sort of thing. So like I said, it kind of plays into what I do in the gym every day, where like I'm constantly putting myself in bad positions, and I touch on that in the DVD, the escape DVD that I put out. This idea that if I feel like whatever behavior I'm engaging in is less of a risk, then I'm more likely to do it, right? So there are millions of moves in the sport, let's say, right? But there are only a certain number of them in a competitive scenario that you're going to feel comfortable enough to hit without worrying like, oh, if I try to hit this move, so-and-so might take my back, or so-and-so might put me in an armbar, so-and-so might sweep me, and then I won't be able to get back to top position, this, that, and the other thing, right? So the more you can eliminate those risks of those bad situations, the more the world opens up to you in terms of movements are concerned, right? So now I might be able to hit some more exciting move or less used move that people normally wouldn't try because I'm not as worried that I'm going to get submitted afterwards or get stuck in a pinning position and not be able to get out, or whatever the case may be, right? So that's like so important when it comes to if you're setting foot into the grappling world or MMA or whatever it is, and you say to yourself like, I would really like to have an exciting style, and that's going to be one of your goals, is to make sure that when people watch your matches or put you on a show, that they really want to watch and they're going to be entertained by it. That's a real critical element, because it's going to be really tough. It's going to be really tough to be exciting without doing that. Otherwise, you may be very exciting, but you will likely lose very often, right? And it's not to say that I have the most winning career. Just like you said, Gordon won double gold, at ADCC. I wasn't the one that won double gold, right? So I might not have like a perfect winning record or anything like that, but it's winning enough that people don't just look at me and go, oh yeah, he's just like does weird, crazy shit. he's entertaining, but like, he's not really that good. Right. Like there's kind of
he's just a lunatic.
Yeah. There's kind of this mold between like what's effective and what's like creative and cool. Right. And like some people tend to gravitate towards creative and cool. Like you probably got guys in the gym that you train with every day that see like the next flying armbar and they're like, oh yeah, that was awesome. And they're drilling that. And like, they try to like get really good at that move, but like, they're not good at any moves that like actually like work and are like fundamentally sound. Right.
Yeah. Like
so
jiu-jitsu part.
It's kind of like there's like a middle ground there, right? Like you got to be able to, it's got to be functional as well as, you know, exciting, whatever the movement is. So that's kind of like where that comes in is if you're not doing that, you're not going to be able to, you might go balls to the wall. Like maybe you're just a fearless motherfucker. I don't know. But you're not going to win very often. So people won't respect it as much.
Do you think there's something that's, because you talked about that, and I know, you know, I was teaching the kids over at Henzo LA's for a while, and this guy who I think he used to help you out when you were teaching the kids over in New Brunswick or in Jersey, was saying how like you treated a lot of the kids like adults, which is what I fucking love. So as a teacher, do you think that when you were talking about, you know, everybody drilling the fancy moves, do you think that with the sort of rise of like YouTube jiu-jitsu and, you know, once kind of like Barambolos came on the scene and stuff like that, have you noticed that a lot of places are starting to focus less on like escapes, fundamental stuff like that, and, you know, the kids, they're sort of just pandering to people who want to learn the next fancy move? Because I always get so scared about that when someone new, you know, a girl walks into a gym who maybe hasn't watched jiu-jitsu and she wants to be there for self-defense. And that day it's like, all right, we're countering the Barambolo. And it's like, well, I don't even fucking know what a Barambolo is to counter. Do you think there is a lack of that?
It's hard to say. I mean, I think that's why it's kind of important to have like some separation in classes and things like that. And you have like a little bit of a basic program and then like intermediate or whatever, and then you have like a competition team. I think you kind of need to you need to separate those sorts of classes on some level. I think to have like a gym where you can bring somebody in and have them learn like, you know, solid fundamental stuff, and then at the same time still keep up to speed with you know, revolutionary movements that are going on in the sport that if you're not prepared for when you go into competition, you're going to struggle with. Like if we just all together go Barambolo, like we're just going to pretend it doesn't exist. We're never going to teach it. We're never going to teach any defense, never going to teach any offense. And certainly if you go into gi competition at the very least, maybe no gi, you might be able to get away with it because there's not as many people doing it, but you're probably going to struggle to succeed at the highest level. Right. Sure. So it's like you guys might have like really good fundamentals or whatever the case may be. And you may have a lot of people that are at your gym that are able to defend themselves, which is great. You know, I mean, that's kind of like, I would say for most people that come to a jiu-jitsu school, like their main goals are like fitness, self-defense, that sort of thing. And that's fine. Right. But like, if you're talking about sport or competitive things, you're going to lose out. So I think you can do both. You know, I have this conversation with people all the time. Like, I think you can very easily have a school that does a good job teaching both, but there's probably a good way to, you know, kind of separate those classes and make it so that, you know, the guy that's coming in on the first day isn't learning about Barambolo. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I think it can be done, you know.
Gary, I was setting you up to promote your fucking DVD series, and you gave the most nuanced answer I've ever heard you give. You were supposed to be like, yeah, people don't focus enough on defense and escapes. Speaking of fucking which.
Yeah, I'm not the best salesman, I guess. But yeah, man. I mean, I guess I think, you know what though, honestly, even at my own school, like as much as I put out the defense DVD and all that, and like I do think it's very, very important. Even at my own school, when it comes to like actual submission defense, I don't stress it as much. Like my competitive students, sure, all day. Like I tell them that's super important to be able to escape submissions because that's one of the critical ways that you can win a match, right? Somebody's going to be able to defeat you by submission. So if you're clueless in that regard, you're going to struggle against a large majority of your opponents. However, when it comes to most of my students, like how important is it for 95% of my students to know how to get out of an armbar? for most of their goals. How important is it? Like,
Mhm.
honestly, I'm getting one feedback from you guys.
For which your competitive students?
No, not my
For all
competitive.
your.
I'm saying 95% of my students, 5% of my students maybe compete. I mean, I think that's
Sure,
being generous,
sure.
to be honest.
So self-defense, fitness.
Yeah, 95%. If they're casual hobbyists, then it
Do
only
they need to
matters.
know how to get out of an armbar?
They're not going to have to get out of an armbar in reality.
That's what I mean. Like, not a single person ever is ever going to put them in an armbar in the street. Like, it's just not going to. And if they did, it would be like the shittiest armbar ever. It'd probably yank their arm out just from training.
Yeah. Well, that
they would know how to do that, right?
Right.
So when I go to teach classes, like, I very rarely pepper that kind of stuff in unless I'm teaching like my higher level students. You know, I'll teach that or if like we just got back from a competition or something, I'm like, all right, guys, like, we really got to brush up on this. As far as pin escapes are concerned, that's a totally different story because, you know, anybody that, even if you don't know anything, somebody is going to try to hold you down if they take you down, right? I mean, I think that's a pretty obvious caveat of just being on the ground. I think anybody could understand the idea of trying to hold and pin someone. That, on the other hand, I would stress a hell of a lot to my beginner students. Being able to get out of the mount, being able to get out of side control, all these things, that is so critical. Because otherwise, every time you have a match, the moment you make a mistake and you're put in one of those positions, it's over.
Right.
There's no hope anymore. And forget match. Every time you're in a fight, you get put in a bad spot. Somebody is on top of you, ready to throw punches at your face in the mount, and you have no clue how to get out, and you're not comfortable in that position getting out. Forget all the shit that you learned in jiu-jitsu, your guillotine, your armbar, your rear naked choke, all that stuff doesn't matter anymore. Right. Now you're getting your face punched from mount, and you have no idea how to get out, right? So that's what, you know, regardless of whether I'm trying to promote my DVD, I don't care about any of that. But regardless of any of that, that's what, in my opinion, we're talking about like basic students, competitive, whatever. That's very important for both. But that's what's most important for like your basic students and 95% of your academy, you know, as an instructor, for them to learn. The submission escape element, like, it's great and it's important for like being successful as like a competitor or like, you know, doing well in the gym against other students. But like, how important is it really, like, in the grand scheme of things? Not much.
Right.
I feel like you're leading into a nice sequel to the DVD series, the Escape the Pin series next. Sure.
Nice.
Sure. It's possible. John already put one out, which is why I didn't want my first DVD to be that, because I didn't want there to be too much repeat material. But I may do a Pin Escape DVD at some point.
Nice.
Sweet. Yeah, I feel like a lot of this episode, which has been awesome so far, thanks for doing this, Gary, has been almost like a slow pitch for the product. But I can't stress enough how excited I was to see when it came on the market. And first of all, kudos to the name choice, just the system. I was like, oh shit, I see what he did there. That's awesome. I'm definitely getting in on that.
I was going to try to call the DVD "Fuck John Danaher," but
I think some people saw that originally. Like, is this a little stab?
So good.
But it was awesome. Anyways, I want to divert the conversation just a little bit. Speaking of Gordon Ryan, so a lot of people nowadays, if they've only been training for a couple of years, they kind of just know him as this king figure who's you know, wrecking the scene, shit talking everybody. May or may not know that he was your student originally, like before he went over to John's. And again, having followed you back in the day while you were coming up through the ranks, I saw Gordon starting to come up and you starting to shit talk on him as a student, which was hilarious.
Oh my God.
I remember a video of you at a bonfire and showing.
I got a lot of trouble for that video, by the way.
Oh, I got to throw it out there for those who haven't seen, because I can't forget it. It was so hilarious. Where you brought out, Gordon was a purple belt at the time and was just starting to pop onto the scene on the East Coast. And you brought out a brown belt in front of him at this bonfire. It looked like this is going to be a live promotion. This is so cool. Gary's doing this live on Facebook or Instagram or whatever it was. And you take the brown belt and say, Gordon, I'm never going to promote you to brown belt, and threw it in the fire.
I got in so much trouble for that. I got yelled at by like 6 different people.
No.
Oh, but at the same time, I mean, other posts you were saying, look, this guy is the next big thing. You guys don't know it yet. You're going to know his name in a few years, and you know, self-fulfilling prophecy. He's the guy now. How much do you feel like you are responsible for his growth? Like, I know there's different people who have been training him throughout the years, but you kind of had your hands on him first. So
sure. It's really hard to say, like, I mean, how am I going to quantify it? Am I going to put a percentage on it? Am I going to say a certain number of years? Like, it's really hard to say, but
how much do you see your style in him, I guess would be it.
Well, I know for sure that I've influenced him, at least in the regard of being extremely defensively sound. Because Gordon, even still to this day, like, despite the fact that now he has huge size and strength advantages over most of the guys that he's training with in the gym, to this day, like, I see him just like letting guys mount him, letting guys put him in like super deep submission holds and work. Like, he doesn't have to do that. Like, basically, if he goes to the gym on any given day, there's like, with almost everybody that he trains with, if he doesn't want to get put in a bad position, like at all, like a submission hold, a pin, whatever it is, and he just wants to dominate and kill everybody that day, he can pretty much do it. I mean, of course, there's going to be circumstances that occasionally something bad's going to happen, but for the most part, if he wanted to prevent that all training session long, every single day at Renzo's, he'd probably be able to do it pretty well. But he chooses not to. Like, I see him working out of bad positions and stuff like that in training, and he didn't originally see that as a critical element of jiu-jitsu. Gordon is, if you can't already tell based on his social media personality, came as an extremely confident individual. It's not like I had to teach Gordon to be confident. Like, hell no. If anything, I was like, all the shit talk you guys saw is like my attempts to try to ground the fucking kid.
How'd that go?
We already believed he was like a fucking godsend before he was anything. So it's like, all right, man, I guess I got to fucking try to knock him down a few pegs.
Because, that's so funny.
Literally, like, his head's just going to grow off of his shoulders. So I feel like that was really important, but I see things that I told him were very important that he still does. So for sure, there's like influence there. As far as like technique and things like that are concerned, like, it's very much a collaborative effort at Renzo's now. John will teach moves, we try out the moves, and then we experiment with different continuations, different adjustments. So we're all kind of collaborating now. So I'll come up with a few adjustments and I'll explain them to Gordon. Gordon may come up with a few adjustments or spin-offs and he explains that to the rest of us. And then we go to work from there. So honestly, there's a continued influence, and now the influence is in both directions. Before it was a little bit more one-sided. Obviously, in his early career, there was more influence coming from me to him. And nowadays, it's a little bit more back and forth, between the two of us. And it's really cool to see. I think as an instructor, if your goal isn't to try to make sure that your student ends up being better than you, you're kind of a shitty instructor. I mean, like, what else are we really here for? We're trying to make, preferably, I want to make sure that he makes none of the mistakes I ever made, in my development or in my performances or whatever the case may be. So if I'm a good instructor and I'm able to prevent most of those mistakes from happening, he should get better faster, right?
Okay.
Like, I mean, in theory.
Before we carry on, because I don't want to pass this. Now, there was a very important match that happened in this last ADCC. I hate time stamping these conversations, but if even historically, if people haven't watched it, go back and watch it. Between you and Gordon in the absolute division. So this is kind of it was the, again, self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, a good instructor should be teaching their students how to beat them. Do you want to sort of just publicly talk about your experience in that match and how you felt before, during, and after?
Yeah. So basically, similar to what you said, somebody had made a comment like, trying to go for a dig, which is whatever. I don't care. I love social media digging. But it doesn't mean I'm not going to fight back. The guy said something to the effect of like, yeah, whatever, they've drawn on this for years. Oh, you were only famous because like, Kron beat you, and now you're famous because your own student beat you or something like that. Blah, blah, blah.
What a piece of shit.
Whatever. People say all kinds of mean things. I don't give a shit. Listen, George is like the nicest person on the planet, George St. Pierre. And like, you would go to any random social media post that guy makes. Like, he really, I don't know if he said anything negative to anybody in his sport, like, ever, without at the very least, like, somebody else shit talking him first. And there's just tons of hate just constantly on that guy.
You could go on YouTube and like watch a YouTube video of like a 7-year-old blind violinist, and the first comment would be like "gay."
Yeah, exactly. So like it's a free fall out there. I understand the internet. I grew up in the internet age. I was born in it. So like none of this stuff really affects me that much. But anyway, it just draws on a talking point. So, you know, my response simply to that was, you know, and it's not even just an excuse or anything. It's just like, that's what's supposed to happen. You know, like I said, and also like, let's be like a little bit realistic here. Like, in addition to the fact that like, from a technical standpoint, like he should be better than me in a shorter period of time. Forget about that. Let's talk about the fact that he's also like a considerable weight, several weight
The
divisions.
largest man on the planet.
Not only
2.5 Gary's big.
Yeah, not only should he be like just as technically good, if not better, he's also got like 50 pounds on me. So it's like, what do you guys think is going to happen most of the time in that scenario? You know what I mean?
It was the Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, "I'm sorry, I love you" super kick. I got emotional watching that match. I wanted to ask you, for everyone kind of wondering how to beat Gordon. It may not happen physically, but since you know him for a long time, is there like a psychological way to hurt him? Is there a way to go deep into the emotions? Something about his family history? Is there a weakness there that is yet to be exploited?
So I think like there's tons of them. I think it's really really easy to get under Gordon's skin. Like, he's a super confident person, but like it's incredibly easy to like irritate him. You know, like people see it in social media all the time. Like literally a person with no profile picture and 0 followers and no photos posted could like just randomly shit post about Gordon, and Gordon will follow that person
for 24 hours.
Until they like quit Instagram. Like, he's just going to continue to assault them with different comments and this, that, and the other thing. So like, you know, whether or not it really affects him, like, you know, walking around on a day-to-day basis, I don't know. But
it's so funny.
I don't think so, really. But like, it will at least in the brief period of time where he's responding to the comments, he will. So I think you could pretty much say almost anything about the kid and get him going.
That's so funny,
it's
dude.
Not really like a hard thing.
One of the things I actually wanted to ask you guys, you and Gordon, and I mean, really, your squad's doing it. Where I went on the last episode, I went on a fucking tirade about companies and stuff taking advantage of athletes, not paying them what they deserve, looking for handouts, stuff like that. And there is something, you know, do you find that like your squad actually like being cocky on social media and being like, this is the fucking money we deserve. This is the fucking money we're going to make. Watch us. Do you think that that's helping lift the industry, and maybe that other athletes need to kind of follow suit, maybe not in like that like cocky way, but just start asking for what they deserve and not taking bullshit deals?
Yeah. It's happened for a long time in the sport. I mean, especially because like, I mean, there was no, I tell people all the time when they talk about like my plans and like my professional career, like that, like what ended up happening for me in jiu-jitsu, you know, making money off of competing, like didn't really exist like at all when I first started training, probably for like the first 5 years or so. And then maybe like between like year 6 and year 7, like stuff started to happen, like Metamoris and I don't know, 5 was putting on some small shows where they're giving out some money. There was occasionally some Grapplers Quest Absolutes and things. And so little bits and things started popping up, but I never envisioned this as being like a career or anything like that. Right. So I definitely think that between the exciting nature of the matches that a lot of us have been able to produce, which leads people to want to watch more and want to pay potentially to watch. Yeah. And the way that we kind of blaze the trail social media wise, whether it's confidence you're talking about or, you know, just personality wise, to make things interesting for people to want to tune in, etc. It absolutely was helpful, and it absolutely will be helpful for people in the future to follow suit, at least in some regard. Would I ever tell anybody to copy Gordon? Absolutely not. I think that's a terrible idea for anybody.
It looks so bad. Yeah.
You should absolutely not. But no, like it's, you know, it's very much, it mixes with his personality well. And he is just a little bit larger than what his like actual personality is. Like, is he capable of being like a nice guy and all these things? Absolutely. But he does a great job of playing up his most eccentric characteristics as a person, right? So all that cockiness, that bravado, and the kind of like kill yourself attitude that he brings, he like elevates that when he's, you know, on camera or posting on social media or whatever the case may be, and it makes for controversy, and which is the reason that everybody tunes in. So I think what you were getting at more along the lines of was like, you know, people, you know, trying to get paid what they deserve and all that.
Yeah.
And I think it all ties into that, though. I think it all ties into that, though. I don't think it's hard to have like one without the other. It's hard for me to come to you and be like, pay me, you know, this amount of money. This is what I deserve, and then not be able to bring entertainment from the actual match, or from a personality perspective, or some sort of social media fault, whatever. You need at least one of those elements needs to exist for you to be able to demand that money that you quote unquote deserve. Yes. You don't realistically deserve anything. You can ask for something, and if the market decides you deserve it, you'll get it, right? And if it doesn't, it won't, and then you have to readjust. That's kind of how all things. That's kind of how everybody should kind of set their prices as a person that's like a free contractor. Like, you know, like, hey, if I say I'm worth $1,000 and one person pays $1,000 for an hour private, that's what I'm worth now, right? But if I can't get anybody to do it, then that's not what I'm worth, right? Like I determine that ultimately, but my actions are going to be what makes a person decide whether or not it's worth that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
I got one more interesting sort of a detour in the conversation here. What some people may not know about Mr. Garry Tonon here is he's not only shockingly handsome and amazing on the mats, but
stop trying to get him to hang up on me so you guys can have your own fucking podcast.
I gotta reel this back, Jamie.
You.
You've got is it a kinesiology degree? You've got some.
I think the actual degree itself was in applied kinesiology.
Okay.
It was an applied kinesiology option for exercise science. The degree, I believe, is just like a bachelor's in exercise science. I think that's what's written.
Okay.
But
I'm trying to make you sound smart. Now you're bringing it back down. You're smart.
So,
okay.
Yeah,
all right. But
I did go to college and all that for sure.
There you go. And,
I'm Garry Tonon. I'm dumb and don't buy my DVD series.
Making this hard for everyone. I remember part of the interview that you did on Joe Rogan's podcast, you and him going back and forth about nutrition. And there's always been this running thing you've been going on with the Garry Tonon diet.
Oh my God.
Right. Five Guys, burgers and fries sponsorship and all this. And then there's been, to detour again, kind of leading into this, there's been a development in your hairline in the last year or so. And I don't know if you can see, but I've got kind of similar things happening in my beard.
Yeah, I noticed.
Yeah. And I see like Leandro Lowe has as well. So I'm starting to believe, there we go. The part there it is.
Yeah.
That is where the aliens landed.
I have this weird thing too. I just noticed.
And besides the fact that it's probably brought on by phenomenal jujitsu, I'm wondering if there's any correlates or any studies that you've come across from a kinesiology.
The Garry Tonon diet, could that be affecting it?
I hope not. I'm wondering if you know if you've done some due diligence and figured out what the fuck is going on.
So honestly, I think it's one of those things that just doesn't matter to anybody, like enough. Like, okay, so for instance, like, I don't know, childhood leukemia, it matters a lot to people. So they're going to have a lot of answers and they're going to do a lot of studies and people are going to pour a lot of money into it. Like, alopecia just doesn't nobody cares about it. So like nobody is spending any money researching alopecia and trying to figure out what's going on. I mean, maybe there's like one guy who's super into it, probably some dude who had it happen to him and he's like all pissed that it happened and wants to try to figure out.
Yeah, some like girl threw it in his face when they were breaking up, and he was like, "I'll fucking show you." And he goes to college and
made a super villain out of him.
Yeah,
exactly. But honestly, from anything that I research and anything real, like actual doctors have told me or anything like that, it all just seems like some bullshit excuses for something that they haven't done enough research to really understand. They'll say that, it could be basically the main thing that people will say is it's brought on by stress, quote unquote. But like, you could literally use that as an excuse for almost any condition.
Of course.
The flu, quote unquote, could be caused by stress, right? Literally anything that could happen to you, physiologically, could probably be brought on by stress.
It is.
Right? So it's not really an adequate explanation, in my opinion. And then, you'll see different people talk about how, if you change your diet, it can.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to sort of correlate there. Do you think there's anything to that?
The only thing I've read thus far has basically suggested that some people will get it and it will go away after, a period of roughly a year or so. Sometime in the first year of when they get it, it'll go away or not be as bad or whatever the case may be. And then there are some people that get it and it just stays with them forever. There are some people that get it and they have alopecia totalis, which everything comes out, like all of their hair, over their entire body or their entire head or whatever the case may be. So there's a bunch of different ways that things could go, but it doesn't really seem like conclusively there's really anything anybody has done that they have evidence to show for sure works to prevent or control. The only thing that they have research on is like steroid injections in the areas of the alopecia, which has shown to help there's also some studies to show that like using things like Rogaine can potentially like
your hair looks fucking great like this. This is like my favorite of the Garry looks. Yeah, for sure.
Lumberjack, I described this look.
It's great. One of my ideas for my next video was going to be normal humans training on the Garry Tonon diet, and just like me and my friends having Five Guys before jiu-jitsu and be like, fuck yeah, Garry Tonon diet, and then just cutting to us on the mat, just like, oh. But nothing makes me more jealous of you than being able to fucking eat the way you do. And
sure.
But it's just because you train so much, right?
Sure. Well, I mean, like, okay, so we have to make a distinction between like, what people decide is like eating for performance and like eating for like lifelong health. Like there's definitely studies that show that if you're not eating, certain things or the correct diet, that over time your health will degrade and, certain things will happen, whether it's blood pressure issues, heart issues, literally anything. We could go down the line in different ailments that are potentially made worse or caused by poor eating and poor diets. However, there are very limited studies that show any real evidence that any type of diet is going to drastically change athletic performance. Like that you're going to start eating a certain way and suddenly your athletic performance is going to get drastically changed.
Well, wait a sec. Let's broaden that out a bit here, because what are we talking about? Are we talking about calories? Are we talking about nutrition? Are we talking about vegan versus
general nutrition? Just general nutrition. I mean, there's a lot of arguments. One guy's going to tell you veganism is going to make you the healthiest. Another guy's going to tell you need to have this amount of, whatever macronutrient. There's limited evidence that as long as you're having like all the basic necessities of a diet, in the sense like I take a multivitamin and I'm getting a decent caloric intake, there's not any evidence that like any other elements are really going to have a drastic effect on like my athletic performance. I mean, by all means, somebody may hear this and they'd be like, that's bullshit. And they may find some small obscure study where they show something, but there's numerous examples of high level athletes, eating absolute garbage, before competitions and doing very, very well, even at the level of. So what we do, it's hard to prove because it's technique based. A lot of what we do, right? It's not just an athletic performance compared to like say Olympic sprinting.
Sure.
Right. That's a pure athletic performance, right? It's just like who is the fastest. I'm sure there's technique involved in running, like don't get me wrong, but It's not like the variables are much less, right? So it's much easier to say like, all right, a change in diet could produce a different result. Like you could more easily do a study on something like that than MMA or jiu-jitsu because there's so many variables. And like Usain Bolt had a year where he competed in the Olympics and literally just ate chicken nuggets from McDonald's leading up to the event.
I fucking
and now he claims. Go ahead.
No, well, I have 5 guys once, and I'm like sidelined. Like I can get like if I eat like you and I don't train that day or the next day, I can put on like 10 pounds in a weekend.
Sure.
Just
Well, that's a different story, right? For eating for like, weight loss and this, that, and the other thing. Like, sure, like, of course, like if I just horrendously eat and I gain 50 pounds, like
Jamie.
that's like a different story. Like as long as you're maintaining, like if I eat cheeseburgers and I'm still like exercising enough to keep my weight where it's supposed to be, it's not going to make a drastic difference. Like,
Right.
of course, if I gain 50 pounds, it's going to change my athletic ability.
right. Okay, so I have Drew. I don't know if you have any more. I have 2 more. I have one quick one, and then we got to end with the girl stuff.
Yeah, no, you go for it.
All right, my quick one. On a scale from 1 to 10, do you think John Danaher has killed?
Oh, 10.
Great, perfect. That's
Absolutely. And that's kill, by the way. That's me assuming he's definitely killed.
Yeah, great.
That's exculpatory. That's going to end up in court.
Real quick, do you think he is still killing?
Absolutely.
Great. All right.
It's only going to get worse. The number, I'll tell you this, like, it's kind of like, most serial killers, like they kind of start out slow and then they build gradually because they get more comfortable and confident in their abilities and this, that, and the other thing. It's very similar between that and his general rage because of like injuries and things like that. And his students, like over time, like one thing you got to know about like martial arts for sure in general is like, however jaded you were when you started, like the longer you stay in, it's going to get just massively worse. And I think like that probably happens for all humans.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's probably rare that somebody starts out like really jaded and then ends up like later on in life, like being less jaded, probably unlikely. But in martial arts, it's just like, dude, it's going to get like, because I already adapt some of Danaher's teaching style where like one of my students will fuck up and I'll just be like, you suck. Like that was the most worthless, like guillotine I've ever seen in my entire life. My grandmother could do better. Those sorts of things. Because I'm acting like that now, by the time I get to John's age, it's just going to be so
over. By the way, I didn't know that. I don't think lots of people know that about John. Not to like blow up his spot, but I remember I was kickboxing at the Watt before I was doing jiu-jitsu, and I was going to take privates with John, and I did, and he was fucking great. But I think a lot of people hear the accent, hear the very good explanations, and they think he's really chill. And I remember I met this girl at the Watt, and she's like, yeah, I trained with John Danaher. And I go, oh my God, that guy seems so fucking smart. What's he like? And she was like, well, he pretty much just like sits in the corner and calls us all retarded. And I was like blown away. I had no idea about the rate. It's the accent, dude, and he's very like level when he speaks.
Yeah, look, I'm not a story writer, but if I were, I would try to create a villain that would eventually look exactly like he looks like. He would have to be bald. He would have to have a soothing accent. He would have
rash guard,
a rash guard, and he would give out knives to his competitors as they won. He would talk down
as they mutilated other people's bodies,
as they strangled other people.
Like,
yep.
I got to reread Silence of the Lambs because I see a lot of Hannibal in the man.
Yeah.
I think that's one of his inspiration.
All right. Well, look, this has become an accidental tradition. We're 4 episodes in. I'm going to change it a little bit for you. So I've asked people, I don't know if I asked Florian this, but I've asked people their relationship advice. I'm fascinated by it. And our last one, very sweet. We had, we had a double episode last week. Master Ken was on. He said you have to physically protect your heart so that you can't get hurt. And then it was so bad. And then we had Chase Hooper, who just had that awesome UFC win last week, and he's the youngest UFC fighter. His girlfriend was in the room. He gave like the sweetest example about, fight or life.
Anything he said if his girlfriend was in the room.
100%.
That's a load of horseshit, whatever that guy said.
So this is what I want to ask you. I think instead of relationship advice, I would love relationship advice from you, but I think what every guy, at least guy, probably women too, watching or listening to this want to know is, what is your advice for sliding into DMs?
Okay. Well, first we'll start with the relationship advice. Don't.
Yeah.
I had my last relationship at age 23.
Jesus. And you're like the happiest guy I know, by the way. And I do want to say this on record. I did tweet this and it got some love. I know someone you have had sex with, and apparently you are legitimately excellent in bed.
Well, that's a stellar review.
Yep.
Hopefully that was added to my Yelp page.
Yeah.
Or Delp, is it? I don't know.
Yep.
Yelp. So anyway, transitioning. So from at age 23, I probably was like more miserable than I'd ever been in my life up until that point. I know that's hard to hear for probably some people, like going like, yeah, whatever, you were 23, you pussy.
Yeah, like the 70-year-old coal miner who's like still in the mines listening to this on his headphones.
Black lung pup. So yeah, like, I mean, obviously it's relative, but like I was miserable. Like, dude, I decided I was going to live with a chick. I don't want to go too far down this road. Sure. I decided I was going to live with this chick that I've been dating for a while. And man, like I realized it was a terrible mistake. Like I would say like 3 or 4 days into it. And I was hating it so much that I had started running a school at the time, and I would stay at the school till like 2 a.m, just like doing nothing really, just to burn some time, hoping that she would fall asleep so that when I came home, she wasn't awake and I wouldn't have to like,
that's love,
talk to her or deal with her or anything like that. Yeah, that's love. That's true love right there. So that was awful. And then on the opposite side of the spectrum, I'm 28 now. So for the last 5 years, things have only been getting better every year. And, you could say that's because of a lot of other reasons as well, I guess. But regardless, things have been working really well. And I've been really, really happy. So I'm trying not to screw that up. I'm just going to try to continue going down this path.
Yeah. So I kind of actually want, before we get into the DM thing, like, I mean, this question that I ask is half jokey, but half because I'm fascinated about it. And me and you have talked in real life about this a bunch, where I think a lot of people really do struggle, like legitimately. Like for me, I've been a constant relationship person, and you have to sort of examine why. Like, is it because you like relationships, or is it because you're afraid to be alone? Or is it because you're not confident in yourself? Or is it because you can use your relationship as an excuse? Like, yeah, I could run a fucking jiu-jitsu school, or I'd be competing, but I have this girlfriend and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people are legitimately afraid. They would rather be in a mediocre relationship than be afraid just to fucking go for it. And like, look, if you're going to be single and just be a fucking loser and be drunk on your couch every night, all right, like maybe a relationship wouldn't hurt. But like, I think a lot of people, but I think a lot of people legitimately, just because of fear, will hold themselves back because they think they have to be in a relationship because society says so, or they're just afraid.
Yeah, I feel really bad, not just for men, but for women in that regard, with like the whole socialization aspect, because we've literally just been told through like all of our media and movies and all that kind of stuff, but like whoever or whatever we do as far as relationships are concerned is like one of the most important parts of our life.
Oh, your worth is if you have a fucking baby.
Like, dude, like Disney movies. Worst, I was talking to my friend about this the other day. We were talking about some relationship issue, and I was like, yeah, bro, I was like, your daughters are watching Disney movies every single day. I was like, what do you think they're gonna think? Like they think they're gonna run into Prince Charming one day, and they think that's the most important part of their life. Like that's what all these movies are centralized around, is like some anchoring relationship or whatever the case may be. And it's just like, dude, there's so much more to life. Like there's so many more important things than like, oh, I need to find the one. Like, how is that my pursuit in life? Like I need to find some missing person that like never was there to begin with. I was already a very self-fulfilled, happy person. What do I need? Why do I need somebody else? If somebody comes along and makes shit better, great. But I have to go search for that? Like,
right. Garry with the progressive feminism on the Disney movies. Very, very off-brand. That was great.
So, yeah.
I want to get back to your next DVD series, Enter the DMs.
Yeah. All right. So let's do the DMs because that's going to be more fun.
Very clever, dude. Let's do it.
So I think it's different for everybody, because all my friends will argue like some of the advice and things that I'll say. Oh yeah. Well, you have 160,000 followers and you have a blue check mark. So like whatever you do in the DMs doesn't really matter. You're just going to get laid no matter what. And they're right. But
Check me
Get
out.
that check mark, kids.
But I will say this. I think that, because I obviously have a lot of friends who are not in that situation, and I get to see all of their exploits and their screenshots and everything. So I think that some of my friends who are the most successful that don't have what I have, I think they're very experimental the same way that I am in jiu-jitsu. Like it is not like it's not like this, like there's like one right answer. Like you're dealing with many different people that think in different ways. So like it's going to be trial and error. Like you're going to throw some moves out there and you're going to crash and burn sometimes. And you're going to say some things that are going to really offend people. And you just got to like keep trying different stuff until you kind of find like, all right, what are my moves? What's going to work out well in most scenarios? And I would say that the biggest thing too, though, is know your audience. Like try to read people, get them to give you the information. It's just like trying to make a sale, right? Like when somebody comes into my jiu-jitsu school and they want to train, do I go out and tell them before they even tell me what they want, man, we're the best competition team. We kill all these motherfuckers. We strangle everybody. We break everybody's legs. But what if that person doesn't give a shit?
They're like, I'm here from the church. Yeah.
I came here to lose 20 pounds. That's cool that you break legs.
You fucking psychos.
I kind of like my legs.
Yeah. So like, I would instead like, hey man, why are you coming in, how'd you find yourself here? Do you have any past experience with things like this? And you ask them a bunch of questions, you get them to talk and tell you, they will tell you what they want from you. And then if you're a good salesman, okay, and it's not even just about being dishonest, you don't have to lie, but you just, to the best of your ability, whatever it is that they say they're coming there for, you express that you have and you can give to them, to the best of your ability. So I think that's probably like the biggest thing DM wise. Now it's tough sometimes when you're just talking to randoms, right? And you're just shooting your shot with like random chicks and you don't know anything about them. But that's what I would say is try to start a conversation and see where it goes. And in general, they'll kind of point you the direction as to what they want instead of just like throwing it out there.
No, that's a good point. Like there's this, so many people will talk about like, girls only want guys with boyfriends because they're sluts or whatever. And like, I think let's
talk about Jamie's DMs for a sec.
Yeah.
No, but I honestly think the reason, and this goes back to the theme of this episode, I think the reason that girls will talk to guys with boyfriends is because they're not acting like fucking desperate dorks. And they actually because they're not looking for a relationship, they can have, like you said, they can have normal conversations. They can find out what the girl wants. They can be interested without just being like, do we get to go home now and you touch my dick? Just because like they don't need that. So it's almost
that's
like
another really important part that you just brought into there though, is like escalation. Like escalation is so important. Like, like you just start out with like cockpicks. Like,
right.
It's like, come on guys. Like, even if you got a nice one, like
that's quite an opener.
Trial and error here, and it might work sometimes, but like, is that really my best strategy? Probably not.
Guys get so confused with this strategy that they've literally sent them to me, a meme page. They've sent me cock pics. I'll wake up in the morning and open my DMs. I'll be like, well, fuck. Okay.
God
how I get to start today.
Sorry about that, Drew.
All right.
Nice job, though. I see that the patch is consistent.
So good.
I was going to say. No, you go.
All right. So I guess I would just say like with the escalation of things, like you start out normal conversation, but at the same time, we all have that friend, and probably Jamie's that friend.
Not anymore.
that when you're doing this, like you all of a sudden you just become the friend, and that's it. And you have no escalation. Like you have friends that just go straight to that cockpit. Yeah. And then we have some friends that literally talk to a chick for 6 months in the DMs and literally there's zero movement whatsoever because they never even made a single progressive move. It's like, dude, send an ass eating meme every once in a while. Like, for fuck's sake. Like, and if she doesn't like it, here's the good news. Like, you can find ways to maneuver around that. Like, when you send something that somebody goes, oh man, I really didn't appreciate that. Like, whatever. As long as they're still talking to you, you can work your way out. Oh, it was just a joke. Oh, sorry, wrong text. Meant to send that ass-eating meme to my sister. Like you can work your way out of
That's
that
Gordon's
situation.
move, right?
You don't have to pigeonhole. Exactly. That's Gordon's move. You don't have to like think like it's death. Like when you make one wrong move, you find out what they're comfortable with. And then as you find out what they're comfortable with, you push the envelope and push the envelope and push the envelope until you get where you're trying to go. Like you don't just start like from the top but you don't just stay at the same level the entire time. You got to find a way to escalate slowly to their level of comfortability. Right?
It's so funny. We were talking about like dick pics and stuff, and I thought you were just like ribbing me and making a joke, being like, Jamie's that friend who sends dick pics. I'm like, yeah. And then when you were like, you're the guy who keeps it completely level and refuses to escalate, I was like, fuck, that is exactly. Dude, I have been, I literally, the amount of stories I've had, like there have been times where a girl's like, are you going to try to fuck me? I was in a stripper's bed once, and the situation was like, I just like kept talking to her. And then eventually we got so tired. I was like, well, I'll bid you adieu. And I just fucking left. And then as I was driving, being like, what the fuck was I doing? Yeah. It's hard sometimes, man.
No, I understand though, because especially in the current climate, like like whether it's politically or however you want to describe like what's going on in today's society, like by all means, like I think like as guys and as you being a nice guy and me like believing that I'm a nice guy, and I think like most people like to try to believe that, like we're all very concerned that everything that we say or do doesn't come off like we're a fucking rapist, right? Right. Like, because that's not what we're after. Like, the last thing I want is for somebody to feel that way in any way, shape, or form, right? Or anything that I do to be perceived that way. So we get now. I think, in some ways, I guess it's a good thing in the sense that like guys are probably a little bit more careful with what they say and do, and a little bit more respectful, or whatever the case may be. But I think sometimes it does push you towards the opposite end of the spectrum, where you're like afraid to make a single move because you think that any level of aggression is a rape vibe. Like,
yeah. And a lot of my girlfriends
touch your arm now, and like because I touched your arm and I didn't ask you if I could touch your arm first, like now I'm a rapist.
I've had like liberal LA girlfriends of mine who are happy, like you said, with like the progress that's being made and stuff, but also be like, hey, men are also kind of afraid to be like men, and that sucks now. But yeah, it's a combination. It's like don't open with the dick pic. I think can be where we set the bar. And then you're probably pretty good. Yeah.
I feel like we've really sold this DM series. That's could be your next move.
It really should. Dude, this was
her system.
Enter her system. And then John, to spite you, his next one will be Exit Her System, and it's a murder DVD about getting rid of the evidence.
I heard a couple people mention Enter Her Exit as well as a nice possibility for a DVD series.
That makes sense. Well, dude, this was one of the most fun interviews I've done. Thanks for talking about jiu-jitsu and about girls. Sure. And we're going to promote the shit out of your DVD series.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, man. Thanks,
brother.
It's been fun, man. Talk to you later.
Yep. See you guys. Thanks.
Yep.
This time of year, guys, is not always as fun and happy-go-lucky as the Christmas cards would have you think. It's actually, for a lot of people out there, they're dealing with serious depression and mental illness. And we really want to bring light to the issues that don't get talked about enough. And one of the biggest problems in our niche, in our industry, in jiu-jitsu, that definitely doesn't get talked about is, okay, I know that some of you are out there, this is going to hurt just to hear. I apologize to begin with. Sometimes, guys, it's just, you don't even get a gi for Christmas.
You don't get a gi.
I can't, take it, Jamie. I don't know. I don't know about this.
You can't just tell me to take it if you're bringing up now.
Oh my God.
All right, look, lives have been lost. Marriages have been ruined.
For sure.
I don't know how many times some dumbass husband, I mean, the woman trains jujitsu. She fucking wants a gi, or she of course she wants a gi, right? And then the guy, here's a ring, honey. And then she's like, well, now our kids don't have a father. Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. You take your dumb diamond ring and get out. You know I wanted a gi, and you know that I wanted a gi that wasn't made by slave children in another country like the majority of gis are made.
And this happens more often than you'd think. This is the stats are like 1 in 3.
Did you get them? Yeah. 1 in 3 jiu-jitsu practitioners will not get a gi and then will divorce. I mean, I don't think we should
children's lives are getting ruined.
I mean, I'll just say it. I'll just say the story I read in Newark, New Jersey, where a woman was so upset that she didn't get a gi. Not only did she kick her husband out, she drowned her baby in a bathtub. There, I fucking said it. She drowned her baby in a bathtub. And then had no gi to dry off. She had to use probably just a hand towel or something. You could have buried the baby. It's fine. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Guys, what we're trying to say is Origin Main. God damn it. OriginMain.com. OriginMain.com has gis that are like the highest quality gis you will ever fucking feel, you will ever roll in. And they're made in America. And like real talk, job situation sucks. Job situation sucks in America. Job situation sucks for vets. And this company is doing something really important and really moral. And they're doing it. They're at the top of their game. Like, it's cool enough what they're doing moralistically, right? Like making the jobs in America, helping vets, stuff like that. But also just to be like, oh, and they're going to be like the best fucking gis you'll ever roll in is pretty cool.
Yeah. You know, the number one thing I hear from people when I talk to them about Origin is they say, oh man, I've been watching them for a while. I love what their stuff looks like. I hear it's really good. It's a little expensive for me. And I get that, but then you go onto their site and watch how they make these things by hand, how they source their own cotton from American fields to make sure that this work stays in America. And then look at the technology that they put into it, proprietary technology that they've literally created themselves. And on top of that, we're going to undercut all of that morality with giving you 10% off.
Hell yeah, we are. Take that, hard workers. And also, guys, it's not just gis. They have tons of really cool, they have jeans, they have boots, but also just if you want to support us, if you want to keep this podcast going and growing, they also have, Jocko has fucking energy drinks and tea. There's a bunch of cool shit. They
got a whole supplements line.
Yep. So check that out, originmain.com. Use promo code RearNaked. Get people presents. Made up for all that tragedy. My burger and fries are here. I'm so sorry, Jocko. Cool. originmain.com. Cool. Also, guys, very important. Go to BJJ Fanatics and buy Gary's DVD. We have a direct link to it, which I think probably helps him as well. So we'll have that in the YouTube description, maybe on the iTunes description. All right, cool. But yeah, I mean, we talk a lot of shit about paying jiu-jitsu guys what they're worth. So go do it. Go buy it.
That's true. I was going to buy it anyways, just for the name, Exit the System.
Dude, I got to say, brilliant. I've literally never been more like with a lot of these DVD series. It's like, there's always like something I want to learn when it's like half guard. And I'm like, all right, 70% of that is probably not going to fit into my game. But this one was the first one in a long time I got like excited for. I was like, oh, this sounds like practical and applicable. And
yeah, and it's exactly who you want it from. Because all of the people, I've been to a couple of Garry Tonon seminars, and everybody, when it gets to the question and answer section at the end, are asking about his escape from Crone's armbar, or asking about escaping Eddie Cummings' heel hooks. Like, it's all, this is what he's known for. This is the guy you want this from.
I love it. Yeah, so I'm really excited. I'm gonna shell out some cash for it as well. So cool. We answered a couple questions during the interview and at the top of the show with the influencer stuff, but we really like that this is a segment on our show. So we got, again, I'll say it again, some dumb questions. However, this one was very sweet and I think ties into our conversation. So I'll let Drew, this is over at Drew's Instagram.
Yeah, I threw it up on the Instagram stories if you were reading through them when it happened. It's from Ken with Arashido Sylvan. He says, "Hey man, just finished episode 2 and most of 3 of the podcast. It freaking rocked. Huron was awesome. Master Ken killed me. I'm trying not to wake my wife up while she was sleeping as I was driving and laughing so hard. Cool." He said also,
Wait, real quick. He
Yeah.
was driving with his. That sounds like he was kidnapping a woman, not because at first he said I didn't want to wake.
Wife, so you wouldn't know.
Yeah, when he said I don't want to wake up my wife, I pictured them in bed, and then suddenly he was like, gave away accidentally that he was in a car. Like I feel.
Try not to wake her while she was in the trunk.
yeah. Man, I really love that episode. It made buying weapons and a fake mustache and duct tape and a satchel and a map to find a lake. It just made the time like fly by, you know. And I'm gonna have a lot of time if I don't plan this escape right.
You're saying that the question and answer at the end is fantastic idea. I haven't seen that before at a podcast. And his question, he adds at the end, is since we've been asking everybody else relationship advice, he was wondering what our relationship advice is. So first of all, type F to pay respect because this is going to be horrible. Hit it, Jamie.
You? No, I mean, I'm the one who keeps fucking asking everyone's advice. Clearly, I'm a wreck. This is the one piece of advice, and dude, I like say this on first dates, and every girl is like, totally, yes. And then it is borderline impossible. But God, I think, so what's gotten me through my hardest times, relationship-wise or not, is self-reflection. And if you can make your goal as a human, jiu-jitsu as a human, whatever, I want to get better every day. That's it. And that means that calling yourself out on your bullshit and calling yourself out when you fuck up. And not only that, but being excited when you fuck up, because that means that, or I'm sorry, not excited that you fuck up, but excited to change, excited to remedy it.
Yeah.
That's where like my life, I feel like has hit a new level. I'm really like, it took till like this year. In relationships, what I always say is I'm like, there's no reason to fight. If you are fighting all the time, it's miserable. And if the goal when there's arguments isn't to win that fight or see it as a fight to be won, if the goal is we want to be together, fix the fucking problem, and that's it, then if I realize that I'm the one who was fucked up, I'm like, yeah, that was kind of snappy of me to say. There's zero reason for me to double down and be a dick about it, which is usually what happens. Usually we project, like Emma doesn't listen to this podcast. She listens to my regular podcast, but not the jiu-jitsu one. Like yesterday she was at the airport and we were texting and like, she like fucked up and she said something like kind of shitty. And I go, hey, that was kind of shitty. And from out of nowhere, just like tripled the fuck. Well, do you even want me to fucking come home? And I'm like, whoa, what is happening? And we do that a lot. And I've done that to her, right? Where it's like the second you realize you're wrong, you're like, well, what about when you did this thing?
Yeah,
and now you're fighting about other fights, as opposed to when you figure out you fucked up, you should be grateful because then you go, oh, I get to end this. I get to end this fight and I get to come out being a better person. Hey, I'll stop you right here. Sorry I fucked up. That was totally me. Let's move on to having a happy relationship. Is there anything I can do to make it better?
You know what's great is when you do that, you give them permission to do the same thing when they figure that out. So it can become like a mutual thing that is expected and accepted in your relationship, which can only work for everyone's benefit.
Totally. But when everyone's afraid, and that's another thing. That's a good point. If you're on the other side of that, and I've done this before, where it's like they apologize and you get this like little thrill.
Yeah, you rub their nose in it a bit.
And you're like, yeah, you did fuck up. And they're like, I know, I apologize. Where it's like, you have to be bigger enough to also step away and like accept the apology. But yeah, that's kind of like, that's one of my like go-to pieces of advice.
My advice is going to be basically anti everything that Garry said. 'Cause
I mean, it's not wrong.
I've been married for almost 16 years and I've got 4 kids. So it's like
Wow.
exactly opposite of Gary's situation. So if you vibed with Gary, you can shut the podcast off now. If you didn't vibe with Gary and you two have been married for X number of years with X number of kids.
Wait, Drew, can I ask you a question that I'm sure everyone's been wondering and I've been wondering and my girlfriend have been talking about it off air?
I don't know.
How old are you?
Yes, many eons.
This is like a Baby Yoda debate.
Yeah, when I grow my beard out or when I shave,
I
because
don't
that's
know.
like a 10-year difference.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I look baby faced when I shave.
Yeah.
So I'm 36. You got a year on me.
Oh my God, I'm still older than you. I have one cat, and even my cat almost fucking died this week. Great, good. All right, so what's your advice then? How do you fucking make that work? Because you still seem happy. You get to do jujitsu a lot. I've never heard you complain about your wife once. Like when you get to the gym, like the old ball and chain. Like you sound like pretty fucking happy.
Well, this is, again, it's been a long process to get here. One thing that I know you found hilarious when I told you is that my wife, besides the fact she doesn't do jujitsu, she doesn't even like jujitsu.
So
And
funny.
our entire life and livelihood has been centered around it for the last 12 years.
Sure.
So it's kind of hilarious. But on that note, since we're talking to jujitsu people in this podcast, if you have a long-term stable relationship or if you want one, you have to understand that, especially if that person you're in a relationship with doesn't do jujitsu, you're going to be asking a lot from them, whether it's time away from them, whether it's supporting you with dietary needs or just emotional needs that are tied to the sport. Like we are kind of needy motherfuckers sometimes.
Yeah.
And this is actually kind of what Chase said on his answer, is it kind of has to be reciprocated to a certain point. So
Such a wise young man.
Yeah, don't expect that you can just keep asking, taking, and it's not going to come back, because it'll come back, and that's how you'll poison the well a little bit. So you got to, pay it backwards, I guess. They're the ones paying it forwards.
Right. Yeah. That's fucking solid, man. Drew's gonna get divorced. And then it'll just be like, I'm moving to New York with Gary.
Yeah. Going Garry Tonon relationship diet.
Jesus Christ.
Everyone gets pink eye.
Everybody. Well, thank you guys again for listening. You can follow me on Instagram at the Jamie Kilstein. You can follow Drew at because_jitsu. Do us a favor. Even if you listen to the show on iTunes or Stitcher, go subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just because right now the majority of you are listening audio, which is cool. I mean, guys, the video, I love the video more, but I understand most of you guys listen to this when you're going to work or whatever. Definitely go watch the video of Master Ken, however. It's insane. But go subscribe, because getting our numbers up will help us get monetized. Getting monetized means we can do whatever the fuck we want to do. So yeah, just go throw those numbers up there. Plus, like, guests we ask, they don't see like the thousands and thousands of people who listen on iTunes. Like, I don't want them to go to the YouTube page and be like, oh, 100 subscribers or whatever. So now you can go to youtube.com/rearnakedradio and hit a subscribe button there. Would be helpful.
Sweet, guys. We've got some great plans for future episodes coming up here, so don't think that we're going to relax just because it's the holidays. We're coming back hot, and it will be out every Monday.
Yep. Cool. Well, thank you guys again for listening. Thank you for writing in all those notes. Thank you for the questions, not the dumb ones. Thank you again to Garry Tonon. Head over to BJJ Fanatics, buy his shit. And once again, if you use the promo code RearNaked at superrareshop.com or originmain.com, you'll get 10 and 15% off. Go get that shit. Go get it now. Support the show. Support America. Support my friend Adam, fucking 2 porn stars down the street. Just go support. Go support us.
Awesome. Love you guys.
Love you guys. Bye.